All right, today I'm going to talk about designs. I'm going to talk about the unseen designs and the seen designs. Uh, all designs, at one time or another, will affect you, will move you or push you in one direction or another. Now, the key thing is, are you aware of it or are you not aware of it? I'm pretty sure, I talk for myself, that I would like to be aware of what designs push me in one direction or another. Let me give you somewhat of a short example. Let's say you have a friend. He wants to go see a movie, or she wants to go see a movie, but you don't want to see a movie. But you go along with it. So after the movie, your friend's like, "Oh, this is great." He or she thinks that you and her are having a great time, but inside you're kind of like, "I don't really want to see that movie. I want to go do something else." So right now, your friend, in a way of a design, because of your connection with that person, um, they influenced you. In this circumstance, they influenced you in a way that you were first initially dishonest with yourself, and then you were dishonest with them. Now let's rewind the scenario and say a friend calls you, "Hey, let's go see a movie," and you're like, "Oh, I'd love to see that movie. Let's go see it." And you honestly, want to go see the movie, and you go have a blast. Great. Your friendship, your connection builds. You have the same goals, the same things that you enjoy. Awesome. You build off of them. But then let's rewind again. And let's say your friend calls you and let's go see this movie. And you say, "Well, I don't really want to see that movie. Right now, I want to do this." Um, so you're being honest first off with yourself. You're taking your principles over them. And what depending on how they react, they might be like, first off, they might be like, "Yeah, okay, forget you." I mean, that will tell you they're not your friend. They're not going to ever be a close friend because they're too self-centered. Now, yeah, I'm kind of telling you to be self-centered too, to a degree, but I'm trying to point out to be honest with yourself. In every relationship, with every connection, there's going to be a give and take. But if you give too much, you bottle it up, and you just aren't yourself. And eventually, with any kind of pressure, you're going to explode. That's not good either. But if you have a friend that understands, it's like, "Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. I'll yeah, no problem. I'll talk to you later." You know, accepting of who you are. Now that's great too. Now there are lots of variables here, but the point that I'm trying to make is here: that person, that friend that calls you up, no matter how you react, or how honest you are or dishonest you are, how much you go along with it or don't go along with it, they are a design. They affect you. The people you connect with are a design. They will move you and push you in one direction if you like it or not, if you're aware of it, if you're not. Now, I was using that example. Now, let's talk more about the design. So we have a picture to my right or left. I can't remember where I'm going to put it. And we'll just put it over here for now. So there's dots. Have you ever played connected dots? You connect the dots from one dot to the next dot, to the next dot, and the dots are labeled in sequence and eventually you're going to see a picture. Well, these designs are the same thing. It's easy to see visible designs, especially when someone does the work for you and labels what point, what what sequence the dots are in. So this is kind of like what I'm trying to do on my YouTube channel as well, trying to show you where these dots are, these foundational dots, and I want you to realize if that's true or not. So, and then start drawing the pictures with me, and you seeing it and I seeing it, and you accepting it or not accepting it, as long as you can see the where the thought pattern I'm going with. So here we're going to change the picture. Boom! You got a tree, and the tree is yeah, that's the picture you're going for. Now I'm going to go to another picture, a picture that I've kind of drawn, we're still going to have this tree type concept. But the tree is going to symbolize life. Life in the sense, it's life and death. Life in the sense that it grows, and life in the sense that it breaks, it gets cut off. So now the roots, I'm going to symbolize as you and I. And the trunk of the tree, say this tree right here, the trunk of the tree has okay, of course the foundation is you and the roots holding it up, but to defy gravity, the stump holds up itself more than the branches. So that's where I have here the heart and mind, and the mouth for utterance. Now I'm going to only use those three as a design for the base. And I'm going to branch out from the mind. I'm going to branch out the mind for three senses here. You know, the nose sense, the eye sense, the ear sense. These are the inlets that we take in information and we process it to our brain. That is connected to our heart. That if willing, we have an utterance to talk about. Oh, that stinks. There we go. So you see that branch, and that branch can keep extending if you notice that. You know, it can go into the touching, the feel of touch, the sense of touch. But I'll just leave those three senses for now. And remember, we all are flawed. You know, some people can't see, some people don't see the same way. Some people smell other things more stronger than others. Some people hear, some people don't hear. Some people don't hear certain volumes of sound, especially when there's many sounds. So, yes, everyone's different, but everyone's flawed. No one's perfect. So, now let's go off of that branch. Now that was a good demonstration. Now that's more of the scene design. Now let's go to the branch where it's more unseen, utterance, off of the mouth, and we have words. Words. Now we have three. We have three processes of growth. It could be even more if I want to think more into it. But keep things basic so you can understand it, so I can understand it, so you can remember it, so I can remember it. You got to base things foundational. If things are too complicated, and you stating, "Oh, it's too complicated," that's not a rational. That's no kind of rational thing to accept. If someone says that to me, it's like, I don't accept that. I call bullshit. If you can't explain it to me, well, you haven't thought about it long enough. You don't see how they all connect. And you need to demonstrate to me how those things connect. So, in that manner, they and me are in the growth of words. So they say it's too complicated. Well, they don't go into context. They're still there. And then I say, well, bullshit. But that's an accusation. I'm stuck at words, and they're stuck at words. Now now depending on our both growth in life, they say it's too complicated. Well, let's say instead of me calling out bullshit, and it's fun, it's easy to do, kind of stops the conversation there. But I can go into context, the level of context of growth, and I can go into more detail. Well, what you're saying, even though you accept it and you can't explain it, you got to consider such and such and such. And this is where, let's say, where you have a problem with, and you cut off their whole understanding, or you bring in another understanding so they can drop that limb. Remember, I said the tree is going to symbolize life and death. There are branches that need to be cut off, rethought, and regrown. The best ideas win. The best concepts win. The ones that are most accepted to you individually. Your individual acceptance does not have to be dictated by a majority. It is your job as a human being to be a representation of your kids someday, or just kids in general. If you like it or not, if you're aware of it or not, your actions, they see it. They're copycats. Okay, because we by observation, we tend to adapt. We tend to accept or deny, and we grow. Okay, so context. Now, let's say we have another person that's really into context, and you're into context, and you discuss things. You have great discussions, very knowing the subject that you're on. You both know it, and you take and you give to each other. It's a sharing and taking. And it's a wonderful thing. People people love it. Um, I love it. But then there's the other concept too that typically happens because most human beings are emotional beings. We if we don't want to confess first off to ourselves that we lack. Most of all, versus another person. If say another person is giving more detail, if another person giving more detail, well, you might be defensive and just call out accusations, and the accusation so shows you, if you have a self-awareness, where your growth is, and it's in the words section. It's not in the context, and it shows them, well, uh, it shows them where your growth is too. And then a lot of times you start pinching their nerves, start pushing their buttons, and they'll start going in the same wordplay with you on words, and it just stunts their growth as well because they need to advance as well. I would like to think that everyone needs to grow. Um, so, and then you have actions. Actions, oh man, you can have a vast array of a design of context, but if they're not proven to have worth, if they're not proven to work in action, then they mean nothing. I can dream that world peace would be a thing. But that's, on one hand, that's not me accepting reality as it is. Now, I can accept reality and live out a better life than what reality dictates so far in my vicinity to hopefully teach the younger generation there's worth in, let's say, this ideology, whatever it may be. May it be drinking straws through paper or drinking straws through plastic. So you got to always think of realistic circumstances, and actions really help really let's say filter out which context of information should take precedent over. So yeah, there's those three things. Now, and with if you're grown in context or in knowing action, and sometimes we kind of go back and forth depending on the persons as well, persons and people that we discuss with. I mean, some people just call out accusations, and if you give context, you're wasting your breath, so you call out bullshit shit, and you start throwing out accusations too. You match them. Now, there's the concept of, do you want to sink to their level too? There's lots of detail in life. There's lots of designs to take into consideration. Not all situations are the same. Not all people are the same. Trying to make that point quite clearly, we're all flawed. But one thing I can tell you for sure. This is, I don't know if I heard this somewhere. It's that, this is my ending message. With any kind of discussion, here, I wrote it down here, just so I don't think I have it in mind. Just consider, the more someone speaks, the less they can hide from you. Now, of course, their utterance has to be genuine from themselves. If they're two-faced, eventually you're going to see that they're two-faced. And like I said, they're not going to be able to hide from you. So consider that in your relationships. Discuss things, how open they are to you. if they're not open to you, is this the way you want to see your life as? Um, some relationships just need to stop. I'm not a fan of divorce, but I'm talking about like friendships. I'm talking before you actually make commitments with other people. You need to be, well, first off, honest with yourself to make these deep conversations with others. Oh boy, now I'm kind of going off. Okay, designs. Designs. Keep in mind, designs. Um, there's designs everywhere. It's beautiful. There are designs that you don't accept, but you can understand. As long as you understand, and who knows, maybe you don't accept it one day, the next day, you're like, you learn something else, and it's like, oh, this design makes sense now. It's all coming together. Things will come together. Unseen designs. So be one that takes control and be the author of your own destiny. Don't be controlled by your environment and the situations and the people you choose in comfort to be with. Give a little pushback. Life is wonderful. Signing off.